growing up in a life of crime, violence, and addiction, to becoming a successful businessman in the recovery industry, to being published in peer-reviewed articles on addiction, and so much more, the story of John Gordiano is one filled with useful insights and valuable tools that anyone can make use of, and he joined me on the podcast to talk about everything from the value of peer support to psychedelics to how he is shaping recovery. But before we get into it, what's up? My name's Dan, podcaster, keynote speaker, and advocate, and this is Hard Knocks Talks, your addictions podcast. If you're interested in fostering productive conversations about substance use in your community, organization, or event, reach out to us at daniel@hardknockstalks.com to learn more about our public speaking and live onstage podcast productions. And with that, let's get into my conversation with John Gordiano.
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
What's up, John? How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going
I'm
well.
alive and above ground, and I have the grass growing under my feet instead of over my head.
Yeah.
And being a recovering addict, that's a good thing.
Yeah. How long's it been?
39 years
39
in recovery.
years.
I
So do you
couldn't
think-
believe I had 39 minutes, never mind 39 years.
Oh, I can relate. I mean, I'm 7 years in, so I'm still, I can still remember a lot of what it was like, and maybe you can too. But
Oh, yeah, you never forget that.
yeah.
Uh,
So, is there anything that you'd like to say before we jump in?
yeah, well, really, my name is Dr. Giordano. I've been treating addicts, alcoholics, and mental health clients for 37 years. And I'm in 80 medical and scientific peer-reviewed journals. And I work with a team of researchers from all over the world. We want to change the way treatment's done because the current model does not work very well. It's about the 5 to 8% recovery rate.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking at the whole person. We're only looking at the head. And if that's the case, send your head to treatment, leave your body home. It doesn't even make sense. It's a 70-year-old model that's based on alcoholism. And as we all know, drugs damage the brain way faster than alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And what we came up with is a comprehensive or holistic approach, a wholeness approach to addiction and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I guess what we're going to talk about today is about all that stuff.
Yeah.
Also incorporating psychedelic medicine. Now, most people don't realize, people say, well, psychedelics, Special K with ketamine. And I've been doing psychedelics for years. I did every psychedelic known to man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different way of looking at it when you put it into a medical model. And it's structured in a way where you don't even know how much milligrams you have when you're out in the street. So you don't even know how much you're taking.
Yeah.
Okay. And psychedelic medicine, plant medicine, was formulated into many, 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 many religions. Most people don't even realize that. And the bottom line is, what it does is talk therapy, which is very important. Deals with trauma, deals with inner child work, deals with all the things and all the behaviors that we developed over time, from early age. And psychedelics deals with your hard drive. And to me, talk therapy is just software. So if you want to look at it like a computer, your hard drive is what drives everything. If you erase something on your computer, it's still on your hard drive. So until you get to that hard drive and actually get to understand it better and get to rearrange the way it looks at things, it's very difficult to have a lasting change.
Yeah.
So that's what I work on now. My son almost died from this disease.
Yeah.
I almost died from it, and so did my wife. So I'm on a mission to help people to improve their outcomes. Unfortunately, we have a 5 to 8% recovery rate.
So
And any other medical condition, if you had that, I don't even think they would be even utilizing that methodology.
No, let me jump in here for a sec. Now, how far were you into your recovery when you started to realize and started to see the need for change? And what did that look like?
Well, it's interesting. I'm also a grandmaster in the martial arts.
Oh.
And, I've been doing that for over 60 years. Black Belt Hall of Fame, National Karate Champion, all that. And, just because you know things doesn't mean you use them.
Hmm.
And I went off the rails with my addiction. And even though I knew about alternative medicine, I knew about all that stuff, but I wasn't paying attention to it.
Hmm.
I was only looking to escape these emotions that were going on. I've been molested when I was 8 and a half. My father went to jail when I was 8. I got molested when I was 9 by a babysitter. I was in gangs. My father was a heroin dealer. My uncle was a hitman. My grandfather was a Shylock. Those are people that lend you money at a high interest rate. If you don't pay, you'll pay one way or the other.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, my uncle threw my wedding when I was 20. And the caterer decided to insult him in front of the family. So the next morning he killed them. So my bride and I had to leave rather rapidly back home to Florida because the police were coming to my grandmother's house.
Wow.
So if you want to talk about trauma, I got loads of it. I got left back in the 6th grade. I only went to the 9th grade.
Hmm.
And I always tell people this, that no matter what kind of family you come from, no matter what kind of education you have, no matter if you're an addict or what you can always be successful.
Hmm.
And here I am. Uh, I went back to school. I went to treatment, and I went to treatment not because I wanted to. I went to treatment because my family, and I just told you what my family was, did an intervention on me. I'm
Hmm.
wondering who did an intervention on them, because why are they doing it on me? Because as far as I was concerned, I didn't have a problem. They had the problem.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went to treatment. I had a spiritual awakening in treatment, to make it really short. If you want to know a lot about this, I actually wrote my life story. Actually, they want to make a movie out of it.
Hmm.
Uh, and So I wrote my life story, and all of this is in my life story, and all the trials and tribulations I went through. And I used to do collection work for the smugglers. I used to teach one of the cartel's bodyguards, martial arts. Um I, I, I I was a drug dealer. I mean, I did everything known to man.
Hmm.
And here I am. I got into recovery. My life changed tremendously. I got a God of my understanding. And in the beginning, I don't want to hear about God. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm a recovering Catholic. All right,
Yeah.
so the bottom line is my God in the beginning of treatment was God, good orderly direction.
Hmm.
That I can handle, and that
Yeah.
was my higher power in the
So
beginning.
so let's take a second here and let's unpack that for a minute. Now it sounds to me like you were you part of the fellowship? Like, did you go to AA and do the steps
Oh
and
yeah,
things like
no,
that?
no, no, no. When I went to treat, when I went, I didn't even know. I thought AA was a tow truck company. I mean, I don't know anything about this stuff. AA, NA, what, OA, QA, who knows what that was?
There's so
I didn't
many.
even understand what treatment was. Neither did I understand what a treatment center was for.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a street kid from an inner city street kid. What do I know about that stuff?
Hmm.
Um, and the bottom line is that when I went there and I got a lot of the drugs went out of my brain and detox, I started to clear up and I started to realize how I was hurting myself and my family.
Hmm.
And that's how my journey began. Like most addicts and alcoholics, you know, I had cravings, of course. I had all this stuff, but I stuck with the program the way they said it. I didn't believe in the program. I'm going to tell you the way it is. But I didn't want to go back to where I was. And my best thinking got my butt in the chair that I was sitting in the treatment center.
Hmm.
So I knew intuitively I needed a different way. Even though I didn't agree with this way, I wouldn't even get high with these people. I told them, I wouldn't even get high with you. Not only I want to, you want me to tell you my deepest secrets? Give me a
Hmm.
break. Okay. So what happened was I went to treatment and I had what I felt was a spiritual awakening. I went to treatment. My clean date is December 4th, and I was in treatment for a few weeks, and I wanted to go home for Christmas Eve. And
Mm-hmm.
I said I wanted to be with my family. I didn't want them to come to the hospital and see me in treatment. And I was lying. I wanted to go home so my friends would come over and give me a Christmas card with Coke in it, you know?
Yeah.
So they said, no, John, you can't go home. Well, I got pissed off. Now I don't only get angry, I got rageful. I
Mm.
don't know about you or anybody else. Um, that didn't go away in 5 minutes. Sometimes it went away in a couple of days, a
Yeah.
couple hours. So I went in my room, I punched the door, I threw stuff around. I was really angry. And I remember my therapist telling me, he goes, hey John, you ever pray on your knees? I said, look, man, I got calluses on my knees. I don't want to hear about this. As I told you, I went to Catholic school. Forget about all that. So I said, what do you mean? God doesn't hear me if I'm not on my knees? How about if I'm standing in a closet? He won't hear me? She says, no, but that's for humility. So what happened was I said, okay. I was in so much pain and so much agony. You know, when you're in treatment and you realize how your life turned to crap,
Yeah.
okay? I
And that it wasn't
I tried to
everybody
put my
else's fault.
right. Well, addicts, we blame everybody. We don't look
Oh
at
yeah.
ourselves. We blame God. We blame whatever. A cockroach walking across the street, it's his fault.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But so I went to get my knee down, and I know this sounds a little weird, but I couldn't get my knee down, and I had to push
Mm.
it down, and I had to push my other knee down. And I said, look, I don't know God, whatever energy, alien, whoever you are, I'll do whatever you want. Just please get rid of this pain I have in my chest and my heart. Okay, I just can't take it anymore. I didn't have the drugs to medicate it,
Mm-hmm.
and it went away. Now I don't know about anybody else, but that never happened to me. And I tried to get it back, and it wouldn't come back.
What do you mean
The
you tried to
pain
get
was
it back?
gone. Huh?
What do you mean you
I
tried
tried
to
to
get
get
it
all
back?
the anger and the pain and all this stuff back.
Uh-huh.
It was gone, and that freaked me out. And later on, I realized there was a spiritual awakening
Mm-hmm.
that I had in treatment, and I came out of treatment. I had another one also. Well, like in treatment, it's about 3.5 weeks in. They have what is known as exiting. Exiting is where the doctors and the nursing staff and the clinicians, they get you in a room and they make a decision whether you need long-term treatment, you need some more treatment there or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor said, oh, John's doing great. And the counselors and the nursing department, he's really engaging in group. And I was full of crap. And the main doctor said, he's full of crap. I said, what? And I said, I could kill everybody in this room and you would never be able to leave. And, I started getting really stupid. And the doctor told me, my doctor says, hey, John, all we want to do is help you. And I
Mm-hmm.
busted out crying and I ran out of the room. And that was the last time that I actually um, acted like an idiot like that. Well, I acted like an idiot other times, but not like that.
I was gonna say, come on, never since then, really?
No, no, no. So that's why I say I prefaced it, but not like that.
Mhm.
I mean, that was the stupidest thing I could ever possibly do or
Yeah.
say. And said a lot of other stupid things, but that was the top of the list. But my life started to change after that. And they said go to 90 meetings, 90 days. I went to every meeting I can every day for years.
Mhm.
Uh, I went to therapy. I stayed in aftercare a year and a half. They had to kick me out.
Yeah.
Uh, whatever they wanted me to do, I did. And, and I kept saying to them, but when is this going to get better? She says, did you use today? I said, no. I said, John, it already got better.
Mm.
And I said, well, yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
Uh, that's true. I'm not hiding in a hotel room looking up at the ceiling. I'm not looking for drugs. I'm not looking for money.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess it did get better.
Yeah.
So that's where I went with that. And then I decided that I wanted to make a difference in the world. And I wanted to help people like myself.
Mhm.
But I realized that the treatment that we were going through, even though I was successful at it, I was one of the fortunate ones. Most people aren't. I believe everybody that went to treatment with me, all my friends, they're all dead. And and they said to me that I was unlikely to stay clean,
Yeah.
you know. And here I am.
Yeah. So,
So I went on this journey, and I was 14 months in recovery, and I wanted to open up a treatment center. Now, what does an addict that with a ninth grade education know about opening up a treatment center? The only thing I knew about treatment was I was in one.
mhm.
My friend, I was homeless when I started actually my journey because I got divorced from my wife 9 months later. She still was doing coke, and I couldn't deal with it anymore. And I got divorced. My friend loaned me a hotel room that he owned a hotel,
Mhm.
and I had two beds in there with a little warmer and a bicycle somebody loaned me in a jar where I would put quarters in when I had quarters. Now, remember, I used to do collection work for the smugglers,
Mhm.
and I used to sell drugs. But now I'm in recovery. I can't do that anymore.
Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, known as FASD, is a developmental disorder that can impact anyone. It affects the daily lives of over 4% of Canadians, but with support and services, individuals with FASD can thrive. To learn more, reach out to saskfasdnetwork.ca. If you're interested in checking out another Canadian mental health podcaster, there is also a link to that podcast in the show notes below. To make contact or to learn more about today's sponsors, to check out our new merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all of those links are also in the show notes below. Now, back at it.
So I was teaching karate, making a few dollars, enough for food, and getting around.
Mm-hmm.
And I was disgusted. And then AIDS came along. And then I said, oh, great. Now I got to catch a disease because I don't like to wear raincoats.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am. I felt like I was in another planet. I didn't know how to deal with all these emotions. I had to learn how to deal with them. Um, I felt a lot of shame and a lot of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dealing with all of that. Then finally, I wanted to open up a treatment center. And my friend, I lied to him. I said, I have this famous doctor. And he was a famous doctor. And he said, well, I know that doctor. If you have him, I'll give you the money to open up the treatment center. He said, how much you need? Now, what do I know? I didn't know how much I needed. He said, $250,000. He said, well, you got it if you got him.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor I was talking to happened to be my doctor. So I went over to him. I said, look, I got $250,000. Would you like to open up a treatment center? And he was like kind of like a comedian. He goes, John, I was just thinking about that when you walked in the room. So anyway, we wind up opening up a treatment center. And I didn't know it was the right to do, but I hired almost all the people from Mount Sinai Hospital where I went to treatment. And I actually stole their help because, my therapist was the program director, and he was making 29,000 a year. This is 1984, 85, and I said, "Look, I'll give you 50,000 a year." I was so grateful for what he helped save my life, the doctor and my therapist. Anyway, we're going along for a while, and I went back to school. I got 300 hours of addiction training. I got my GED. Uh, and that was a trip because I haven't been to school in 25 years.
When I went back to school, after I got sober, I thought my brain was cooked. I thought it was hopeless. Like I was walking into those classes. Well, it was virtual because it was COVID, but I walked into my hands were sweaty and my feet were sweaty for like the first month. I was so nervous.
Well, I tried to sabotage myself. I didn't read a book. The pre-book that they give you to read, the pre-test and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I went
Mhm.
right to the place. I never forget it. And this woman that was behind the desk had her back towards me. She was doing something. And I'm waiting. I said, hey, lady. She says, oh, you must be here for the GED test. And
Ah.
kind of broke the ice. So, it was nasty.
Uh-huh.
So I went into the class and there was a bunch of people in there. They didn't even know how to put their name on the paper. I
Mm.
says, well, if these people could be in it, I could do it. So when I went to take the test, they had algebra. And I never had algebra in school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I couldn't remember what fractions were, how to do fractions or any of that stuff. So I guessed. I guessed that most of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I passed it. Don't ask
Mm-hmm.
me how. God definitely was in that room with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I got my GED, and that's how I was able to go to school. Back then, you didn't need a master's or a bachelor's; you just needed a GED to get a certification to do it, be a therapist or
Yeah.
counselor. So that's what I did. And what happened was my therapist didn't like the fact that his client was his boss. Now, I wasn't his boss. I was grateful for him being helping me,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't like it. Long story short, we couldn't make payroll. We were packed. My friend that loaned me the money, that was a partner, said they're stealing. Now I'm a street kid. I didn't have any lawyers, and you try to beat me, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Okay, so I went into the doctor's office. I says, Are you stealing?" And he looked. He put his head down, and he said, "Well, I have a sexual addiction, and I've been buying apartments for girls, and I've been buying hookers." And he was taking the money, and we couldn't even make payroll, but it didn't matter because the therapist guy. Uh, Long story short, it's in my book. They pushed me out of the treatment center.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they gave me, offered me 25% of the outpatient part, which had 3 clients. And I had no choice because where else? I had to get 6,000 hours of supervision
Mm-hmm.
in order to get my certification. And who's going to take me? Where am I going to go? So I swallowed my pride and my ego, and I stayed there for 3 years doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very difficult because he kept on trying to get rid of me. But I had the doctor's secretary, who used to be his girlfriend, okay, really liked me a lot, so she protected me. So at the end of the 3 years, when I passed my test and I did all of that stuff, I went into the guy's office. I closed the door, and I told him I was going to rearrange his face where plastic surgery could not help him.
Mm-hmm.
I had enough. All right. And he got scared. I told him my uncle was going to come here and blow his knees out. Now, he knew who my uncle was because my uncle had a crack problem, and we put him in treatment. And it was really like almost comical. I told him he was a hitman. Nobody believed me. They thought I was embellishing all this stuff. So one of the counselor came running in my office. He goes, your uncle, your uncle. I said, what did he do? What did he do? I thought he tried to hurt somebody. He said, no, he's telling us all the people he killed. I said, I told you what he did for a living. What is this, a cartoon? I said, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
um, anyway, he knew who he was. So and I want my contract. I had it in 2 hours. And they owed me a contract. I was supposed to get they gave me $80,000. And anyway, 3 months later, I left. And I went, my friend says, look, I got another guy that wants to open up a treatment center. He wants a business plan. I said, I don't know how to make a business plan. She says, I'll make it for you. So he made a business plan. I go up to see the guy in West Palm Beach, and I forgot the business plan. So now what do I do? I'm a minute away. I went, and I said, look, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I forgot the business plan. So he says to me, okay, threw a napkin on the table. He says, show me what you need the money for. So what I did when I was there for the 3 years in the treatment, I learned every department.
Mm-hmm.
I learned everything about treatment, how it runs, how you do it, marketing, everything, administration, the whole 9 yards. So I wrote it all down, and he gave me the money, and we opened up a treatment center. But I didn't know. Again, I made the same mistake. You know, us addicts, we keep making the same mistakes over and over again, expecting different results.
Mm-hmm.
He was a corporate raider. I didn't know that. I built the program up after a year. We were loaded. We had JACO accreditation. We had all this stuff, children and families and everything, all the licensure you need. I did everything. And he fired me. I said, you can't fire me. I'm your partner. He said, read your contract. So I was going to throw him through the window.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in recovery now. So I know that sounds a little stupid to people, but I was very conflicted. So I didn't do anything. And I never forget, I got all my stuff and I hired my sponsor to be the clinical director. And what happened was he just bought a house. He says, John, I can't leave. I said, the guy don't know how to run a program. If you and I stick together, he can't do this. He said, well, I can't take the chance.
Mm-hmm.
So I not only did I lose my program, I lost my friend and my sponsor. So I never forget. I was sitting outside, sitting on the hood of my car, crying. This big tough guy was sitting there just crying. I couldn't believe that it happened again to me. Then I wound up working for the Better Way. It was an indigent treatment center. I was the clinical director. These were people that were actually eating out of dumpsters
Mm-hmm.
that came to treat. They were homeless. They had HIV. They were dual diagnosed, and it was run like an old TC, a therapeutic community, where they break you down and then try to build you back up, and
Yeah.
they put a sign on your neck and make you sit on a bench if you act out. I mean, crazy stuff, right? So I couldn't
Yeah.
take that anymore, so I left. And then the woman that I was with at the time said, "Why don't you open up your own little treatment center?" I said, "Never mind. I'm not opening up anything. I only have $300 in the bank because all addicts have other addictions that pop up. Okay,
Yeah.
spending addiction, sex addiction, gambling addiction, work addiction, all kinds of stuff surfacing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I had a spending addiction. So I had $300 in the bank. So I went to my friend and I says, "Hey," I said, "how much is that building that you own over there?" It was a little 750 square foot building. He said, "How much you got?" I says, "Well, I only got $300 in the bank." He said, "Tell you what, working for 3 months, get some money and then give me the $300. I said, "Okay." So I started it. It was one employee. That was me. Then I hired my friend who did the business part. Then we hired his son. The treatment center was growing, and I wanted to do holistic approaches to addiction, meaning nutrients and looking at the gut and looking at all these things. Nobody was doing this. This is 20 something years ago.
Yeah.
I was an avid reader about different things and science and all that stuff. Everybody used to laugh at me. Say, "Oh, you go to Giordano's place; he'll give you vitamins and cure you."
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't saying that. I was saying we got to look at people, not just psychologically. We got to look at them medically as well,
Mm-hmm.
because there are co-contributing factors to depression and addiction. And I'll just name a few for people out there that are listening. It's called look it up, guys. I tell people, please don't believe a word I tell you. Okay, look up your own stuff this way, because addicts don't believe anything. People don't believe anything. There's leaky gut syndrome, H.
Mm-hmm.
pylori infection, hypoglycemia, closed head injuries, low thyroid, low testosterone, high testosterone. All of these things are precursors for depression and anxiety. 80 to 90% of dopamine and serotonin, those are the feel good drugs that you manufacture naturally, is in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
When your flora in your gut microbiome, microbiota, when that's out of whack, this is out of whack.
Well,
All
and
right.
I've heard it said before, and several times actually, that the stomach is actually now being considered the second brain, and some even go as
That's
far
right.
as saying it's the first brain.
Yeah,
So
that's right. There's more neurons in your gut than in your brain.
that's
I mean, this is
crazy.
all factual now. Now
Yeah.
they're looking at, how everything is. Everything takes a long time. And everybody says, wow, you were talking about this 20 something years ago. How'd you know that? I
Mm.
said, believe it or not, I felt it in my gut.
Ah.
So, autoimmune diseases come from the gut. Our
Mm-hmm.
food supply is really bad. Most people don't drink enough water, as you're drinking water now, which is good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things you can do to fix it: probiotics, prebiotics, eating the right kind of foods, stay away from processed food and sugars and stuff like that. Addicts have the worst diet in the world, as you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't eat, and what we do eat is garbage.
Oh man,
And
there was lots of times where I would eat nothing, but like I would eat like a
right,
big bag of candy for supper. That
right.
would
So,
be
what
what
do
I
you
would
think
eat.
that does to your body? You
I
know what
mean,
that's like. You know what that's like. That's like having a gasoline car and putting diesel fuel in your gasoline car.
Mm-hmm.
Now we all know what's going to happen to your engine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so same thing with your body. If your body look at your body like that, your engine is going to get all glooped up, not functioning right,
Yeah.
and that's some of the problems that we have. Why people don't recover? Because we talk about trauma, we talk about the psychological piece, which is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't want to minimize that, but you also have a body. If you look at the planet we live in, it's a system. The universe is a system. We are a system. We're not just individual pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything works with everything else. Now, you could be genetically predisposed. I work with Dr. Blum. He's the geneticist who found the main addiction gene. There is a main addiction gene. It's called the DRD2 allele 1 gene.
Hang on
Now,
now. So hang on. So I've heard many people say in the past that there is no single gene that people can call the addiction gene. There are genes that are like indicative to people, like they make them more
well,
prone to
if you
these
notice what
things.
I said the main addiction gene.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
There's a whole host of other. See, if it's a system, you got a catalyst, and then you have it runs downhill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there are other genes that are involved, but this gene has to do with dopamine and serotonin. Okay, and then
Okay.
it causes a cascade of other problems and other things. Now, just because you have that gene doesn't mean you're going to be an addict or an alcoholic. Okay, it means you have the propensity to be one because there's such a thing as epigenetics. Now, epigenetics means the social environment can actually change the gene expression.
Mm-hmm.
So we have what is known as the GARS test. It's genetic addiction risk score test. There's 20 papers on this stuff. So about this particular gene, NIH, they talk about it. National Institute. Uh, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
They found it in 1976. Dr. Blum and Dr. Noble, and they found this main gene that's a driver for the other genes.
Mm.
So, amino acid therapy helps with that. We have 15 papers, peer-reviewed journals. Most doctors don't have one paper because it takes a lot of work and a lot of research. And I'm on a team where I'm in 80 of them, which is
Oh,
like crazy. Okay, Dr. Blum has 750. I
that's
mean,
that's a
if you
career's
look
worth
him
right
up,
there.
you'll see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
They just put him up for the European Nobel Prize.
Mm-hmm.
There's another Nobel Prize in Europe. I forget what they call it. He's incredible, brilliant man.
So
So I'm fortunate enough to work with him. Now,
let's
psychedelics we could talk about,
well, and that's kind of
which
where I
is
was gonna go. Like, tell me about like.
I kind of I looked at your face and they said he's going to want to know about psychedelics. I could
And
tell.
you're right. But I'm interested to know, before we get into how you're working with it or how you came to work with it, like tell us a little bit about your experience, because I'm assuming that you had your own experiences with these things like ketamine and ibogaine and things like that. Tell us about your own
Well, it's
experiences with that.
interesting. My first drug that I did was LSD in 1965.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend came to my house, my apartment, and he had this little bottle of clear liquid. I said, "What's that?" "Oh, that's LSD." Now, this was pure LSD back then. All right. It wasn't adulterated like they do it today. I said, "Let me see it." And I drank the whole thing. And he went, What did you do? That's 5 hits. I said, "What?" I was gone for 4 days.
Shut up, you blue lizard.
My brain went, well, I heard that it expands your mind. So I figured, oh, I might as well just do it. I didn't know about 5 hits, 2 hits. I didn't do drugs.
So what did you see in
You know?
there?
Huh?
What did you see in
What did I
there?
see? Let's put it this way. What didn't I see?
I don't know.
That's not everything. Anyway, um, I got involved with Dr. Mash in 1996. She's a
Mm-hmm.
neuromolecular scientist from the University of Miami School of Medicine. She was the head of the brain bank and the Alzheimer's Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And how that happened was how she got involved with Ibogaine. There was a gentleman called Howard Lutzoff, him and his wife. Okay, well, him actually, he was a very severe heroin addict. I mean, heavy duty for 20 years heroin addict. And he wanted to find a new high, and he heard about Ibogaine. Ibogaine is a bush from West Africa that was used by the Weedy tribe as a rite of passage. And he took this substance, and he woke up the next morning detoxed, no cravings, and he couldn't believe how he felt.
Mm-hmm.
So, being a good addict, he said, I can make money with this. Because, if anybody knows about detox, well, we don't really detox people, we stabilize them. But that's another story. But anyway, it doesn't take 24 hours to get off heroin or alcohol or any of it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's usually anywhere from 7 to 9. It all depends on the severity, how much you're using. Anyway, this is a 24 to 36 hours, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible drug. Okay? And what happens with that is you go back into to make it simplistic, go back into your childhood as an adult and you revisit all your traumas and you have what is known as a cathartic experience, or you have resolution to these traumas. You get to see them from a different perspective so they don't impact your life. Okay? And that's what Ibogaine does. And it's almost like a year of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And it lasts anywhere from 60 to 90 days to 120 days, depending if you're a fast metabolizer, slow metabolizer, and how your liver functions.
You're not tripping
Okay,
for that.
and
Like the journey lasts like 10 hours, but what do you
oh
mean it
no, the
lasts?
journey I'm talking about what Nora Ibogaine, what Dr. Mash calls it. It's
Okay.
what goes on the receptor sites. The journey itself lasts from 8 to 12 hours,
Yeah.
depending if you're a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer. Anyway, he opened up a place in Panama. He got a hold of Dr. Mash. She went there. But us addicts, even though we stopped using drugs and alcohol and other behaviors, we still have all the other behaviors.
Yeah.
And it takes time to undevelop them and
Mm-hmm.
develop new behaviors that are more beneficial. So she left him and opened up a place in St. Kitts. But before she did that, she had an FDA trial in the United States. And how I met her was she had an ad in the paper. I read the paper. Somebody turned me on to it. And I called her up. I said, I'd like to be part of your study.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm busy. And she just brushed me off. So I said, okay. So 6 months later, I get a call. It's her. And I says, I remember you. You're the one that just brushed me off. So she laughed. She said, look, Gordiano, I don't know who you are, but everywhere I go, everybody mentions your name. I said, okay. She says, I want to have a talk with you. So I said, okay. So we sat down and talked. And what we came up with is that her clients would go to me at my little outpatient treatment center with housing. And I would do the medicals on them. I would do the toxicology test. I would do all this and keep them in a holding pattern for about 4 or 5 days. Then I would take them to St. Kitts. Okay. And then I would go there and I would do integration therapy with them. In other words, integration means where I would sit down with them and what do you want to accomplish with this journey? What is your intent? Okay, how do you want to go about this? What do you want to get out of this whole thing? Okay, all of this stuff, and that was my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do that, and what we would do with the client after we did a 24-hour heart monitor on them, after we did a toxicology test, because some of the drugs that are in people's bodies can interfere with the ibogaine and you could die.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, your heart, you have to check out your heart, making sure it's functioning properly. And we did it right. She did it right. Everything she did was medically sound. Then we would take them to the island. We do an EKG on them, which is only a little snapshot of the heart. Then another toxicology test, okay, and another blood work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would sit down with them, And then if they're on, it all depends what they're on. Let's say if they were on, not back then, we didn't have fentanyl, but other drugs, we'd switch them off to morphine. Okay. And then eventually, then we could put them on Ibogaine. So we would sit them in a bed, in a hospital bed. We would put an IV in their arm in case there's any kind of an event, we can get them out. And we put a heart monitor on them to make sure that there is a safety. Then we put a headset on them with music and eye shades and keep them in a containment field. Then we would give them a test dose. We would wait 45 minutes to see how they tolerated. If they did, then we would give them a flood dose, a full dose. And then when they come out 24 hours later, I would sit with them and go over what they saw in their journey and help them to figure out how that uh, works with what happened to you in your life and how you can make it better through that journey, what you learned. And we go through a whole process with that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would take them back to my treatment center and we would do treatment. And I had to teach my therapist on how to treat psychedelic clients because they're a little different. And what does that mean? That means they're more motivated. They look at things a little bit differently than a regular client that's coming out of detox, that is still detoxing in their brain because they're not detoxing anybody; they're stabilizing them. And they still come in. There's still a half life on drugs. So by the time they come into treatment, they're still like a little stoned. Okay, in the brain, they may not be high, but their brain's not functioning properly. So they're not receiving the information that you're giving them anyway. So that's a wasted 2 weeks. Then you have the next 2 weeks because it's a 28-day program usually. And if they bond with a therapist, they may have an opportunity to do well in treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So the current model has only a 7 to 8% recovery rate. I am currently one of the owners of JC's Recovery Center. It's a faith-based program, not religious, faith-based, spirituality. And I instituted a holistic wellness program.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the research that I learned to improve treatment outcomes. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit back to my original program, which was G&G. I started that program with $300. And what I'm about to tell you is not to show you how great I am or ego. It's to show you here's an addict that went to the 9th grade, that got left back in the 6th grade, that got molested, that had a family that was crazy, loving but crazy, okay, to show you that you can still be successful no matter what. And what I did was I started this company with $300 and we grew it. And in 2012, we sold it for 45 million. Now, if you would have told me that years ago, I probably would have punched you in the face thinking you're trying to make fun of me. Okay, but that's the truth. That's what happened. I became a leading expert on addiction and mental health and psychedelics. I write books. I'm in all these medical journeys. I lecture all over the world. I'm a street kid. I'm an inner city kid in gangs, all of that stuff. So anybody out there listening to this, I don't care where you come from, who you are, what color you are. It doesn't matter. You could be successful.
Yeah.
Okay? But you got to do the work.
Cool, man. Okay, well, I think we're coming to the end, man. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we let you go? Where can people find you?
Well, you go to John, the letter J, the initial J, Gordiano.com.
Okay.
You'll see the podcast, you'll see television shows, you'll see research papers, you'll see all kinds of stuff. Go there and learn. And my books, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up, that's my life story. How to Beat Your Addictions and Live a Quality Life. That's one of my other books. I got about 3 or 4 books on there. Go check it out.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate you sharing your journey with us and sharing what you're learning along the way.
Hey, listen, we're helping God's kids. You doing it, I'm doing it. And that's how it just, there's enough bad stuff in the world.
Yeah.
If, I always tell people, oh, there's so much bad stuff. Look, if you're in a room that's pitch black and you light a match, you could see that match in any part of the room, no matter how far it is. That's because light is much more powerful than darkness. So the little light that you and I are sharing tonight, okay, will shine brighter than the darkness.
Thanks so much for joining us, John.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, if you got anything out of that tonight, please hit that subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Give us a like, leave us a comment, let us know what your thoughts are on the topic. We'd love to hear from you. We go live as much as we can. We got like 280 episodes for you to catch up on. We got all kinds of stuff to listen to. So that's it for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care, everyone.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.